Welcome to the Temple of the Gods. My name is Max. I am the Temple Magus, and I'm an initiate of the Clithothic and Kabbalistic trees. I work with the Anunnaki gods and goddesses. My patron god is Enki. And today I'm going to be talking about working with spirits and how you can start working with them. So what is spirit? What is a spirit? Spirit, coming from the Latin word spiritus, means breath. A spirit is a breath. It's a breath of life. And without breath, there is no consciousness. You cannot become conscious in this body if you do not breathe. Breath plays a crucial role in working with spirits. So we always have spirits around us. We have a body of spirits that make up who we are. We have ancestral spirits. We have cosmic spirits with us. If we're from a celestial lineage, we have ascended masters, ancestors, and various other type of spirits around us all the time. Some spirits are genetic. They're inherited from our ancestry. For example, the spirit of wealth, the spirit of betrayal, spirit of joy, spirit of kindness. These things can be inherited from our parents and from our ancestry. And we do have a body of spirits with us all the time. We do have a body of spirits, a temple of spirits that make us who we are. And based off of those spirits, we have certain DNA strands active. And having certain DNA strands active based on the spirits we have in our temples is what differentiates us as individuals. And that's why you'll tend to see certain characteristics or even physical features certain people have that might have similar traits, whether it be personality, the way they walk, the way they look, their jawline, right? Just everything in general is a spirit. Every spirit has its own geometry. So when we have these different spirits in us that might have resonance with other people, we tend to have similar characteristics, similar appearances, because it's all a geometry. It's changing how we look, how our cells construct themselves, how our atoms take shape into this physical form, and it's all geometry. So the spirits are reflections of us in a way, or at least aspects of us. And there is a lot of karmic work relating to spirits as well. Naturally, when you're working with spirits, there is a desire. And we can dismiss spirits from our temples and invite spirits anytime we wish. And this is also the karmic journey of a magician. If you have karma that blocks your money, your desire is naturally going to be inclined to invite a spirit that will help you with your karma around money. The same thing could be said for karma around love or relationships. If you feel heartbroken or lonely and you're yearning for a partner, spirits play a huge role in our lives, including creative pursuits. I'm personally a writer. I do script writing, and I work with spirits pretty consistently to receive visions, to receive ideas, and the spirits have communicated a lot to me regarding my pursuits in my creative fields. And some spirits are with us karmically. They're with us based on our astrology. So for me, for example, I'm a person that's naturally gifted in writing, and my writing is something that'll bring me great success in my life. And that's why a lot of my karma, a lot of the spirits that have been assigned to me at birth, had a lot to do with those specific traits: writing, music, creative pursuits, spiritual pursuits, etc. And the same thing could be said for you. If you have very masculine energy in your chart or in your karmic contracts, you might attract very masculine spirits or very Martian spirits, very military, very focused on physical strength, mental aptitude, etc. If you have Mercurian spirits in your chart and you have a greater connection to Mercury, intellect, then you might be a very intellectual, philosophical person, right? If you have a lot of Venusian, Venus energy in your chart, and you will naturally attract a lot of Venusian energies into your life, which can revolve around love, sex, pleasure, money, enjoying the pleasures of this world, and also having a light heart. And this can go on and on and on. So that's where understanding your chart is really helpful, because you can understand what type of spirits will work best for you, and you can also determine which spirits you should avoid. So that's also another thing as well. There are spirits that don't necessarily bring us any benefit when it comes to our journey or our life here on earth. If you're here to live out a specific divine plan and you accumulate enough karma through your free will, you can stray away from your destiny. And that can really affect your connection to your original house of spirits as well. You don't want decay to enter your temple and distract you from the path you're supposed to be on. And this can take the form of addictions. This can take the form of lust, greed, anger, right? It can take many, many forms. And some spirits can come into your life like that to balance things out. So if you're a people pleaser, but you're not supposed to be one, like, you might at some point attract an angry spirit to help you exercise those boundaries. So the whole role of a magician when working with spirits is to balance out the psyche and the energy system. So for me personally, the way this is manifested in my life is not just working with the tree of life, but also working with the tree of death and understanding both the yin and the yang. And I spent a great portion of my magical path when I really started advancing in magic. Even now, I'm still on this challenge, and it's integrating the 72 demons of the Goetia, the 72 demons of Solomon, also known as the lesser keys of Solomon, and the 72 angels of Solomon, or the greater keys of Solomon. And the great thing about spirits is that they do have access to electrical channels. So the way this has manifested for me in my life is when I work with spirits, I'll usually feel like something in my nervous system. They'll communicate to me through electricity. So they'll create a pulse in my body through my nervous system, and it'll kind of induce this trance state, and I'll start to see visuals. I'll start to see their perspective. It's almost like they're integrating their point of view into my psyche. So these spirits are, their sigils, their symbols in a way are like circuits of the aura. They're circuits of the aura from which light awareness flows through. And this can bring a lot of psychic empowerment. This can bring a lot of protection. This can bring a lot of ideas, creativity, insights, mental, psychic, blissful, emotional, physical development. It can bring about a lot of things because spirits have a lot of functions. And when I first started working with spirits, it was honestly, I didn't really know what I was doing. I really had no idea. But as time went on, it was like something in me. It was like my body. It was like they were communicating to my body what to do. And as I'm randomly meditating, my body would follow these subtle instructions. It's almost unconscious. So they would teach me how to get into a trance and receive visuals and allow my mind to open so they can enter. They would teach me these things on a biological, genetic level. And then my conscious mind would be able to adapt to it. So they would install these programs into me, and I would then access it. I would click on the document, and I would learn how to do that consciously. So I would learn to get into a trance-like state consciously. I learned to astral project consciously. And I learned a lot of things based off of that, based off of just meditating with them. But if you want to take it a step further, because spirit literally means breath, what I like to do, and this is something that's worked a lot for the people I've taught spirit work, it's calling to the spirit, but also mentally thinking about it, visualizing it. And then imagine the essence, the light of that spirit pouring into your nose and entering your mind and your body and your nervous system through breath work, through deep breathing and holding your breath. And what this is doing is you're interfacing with the spirit's construct, with the spirit's energy. And you're bringing in its light into your mental body, into your astral body, into your emotional body, and you're directly connecting your essence with the spirit's essence. You'll hear a lot of other magicians talk about this too. You'll see a lot of magicians actually taking on some of the energies of the spirits after evoking them or summoning them. And I can definitely say this myself as well. I've evoked spirits more than I can count. And if I've summoned demon Astaroth, and that had a very interesting energy to it, a lot of power, but also a lot of chaos, a lot of interesting energies. It's hard to describe because it's multi-sensory. They're not exactly like us. But for example, a better example I give is enki. The first few times I summoned enki, I noticed I became very joyful, very cheerful, very happy, very social. And I noticed these were his characteristics. And beyond that, I've felt like his colors, his energy was in my aura as well. I was emanating his light. And I've heard similar things from other magicians that have summoned like Ascended Masters and like the Buddha, and they notice like an overall sense of peace and a sense of peace, a sense of blissfulness and ecstasy. Whereas if you summon a spirit like Aries, you might feel more a sense of discipline, aggression, war, right? Drive, passion. So the very act of summoning these spirits in a way is activating their current in our aura. So if you summon a spirit of Mars, you're activating the currents or the circuits of Martian energy in your aura. And that's how they enter. So the amazing thing about working with spirits is that you don't need to put a lot of mental work into it. I know a lot of people that are all about shadow work, and I've done quite a bit of shadow work in my time, and I still do. But I've noticed when you try to solve problems from the same level of consciousness that created it, you end up in a loop, in a karmic loop. And that's where a lot of spirits can help you with karma. Doing deity work, doing spirit work, meditating with spirits. They can illuminate your spirit and your karma, your filters, in ways you may not know how to consciously do yet. So their influence can hold a very destructive or a very constructive role in our lives. So when it comes to spirit communication, there are obviously multiple ways of communicating with them. I personally don't like using tools. I don't like using sigils. I don't like using candles. I like doing evocations, even though at times I find it exhausting. What I'll do is just call the spirit and just meditate with it and allow it to work on my body, allow it to work on my energy while I'm meditating. And that's what really gets it done for me personally. I used to do full evocations a lot, and that's a whole nother territory and holds a whole different kind of power, if you ask me. And I'm gonna get to that too, actually. When you're working with spirits, there's a few ways to call them to have a maximum efficient connection. So if I'm just meditating with them, obviously I'll still feel something. I'll feel their presence, and sometimes I'll open my clairvoyance. But if I'm doing a full evocation ritual, I'll get my incense, I'll get my candles, I'll open the circle, and I've literally manifested archangels in my room through incense smoke, literally talking to them and seeing them through the smoke. And that's very advanced stuff. That's much more advanced. I actually got it in my first try because I just didn't doubt my magic. But there is like a gateway process that takes place. You have to structure them, you have to give them a vessel. You have to visualize them, you have to visualize talking to them, you have to feel their presence in the room as if they're an actual person. Offerings are a whole other story. Some spirits don't really care about offerings, like angels, they don't really care about offerings, but some spirits might. Some spirits might want offerings. So it's really up to the spirit. I've noticed with evocation, it's almost been like rewriting reality. If I evoke a spirit for a task, it gets it done almost immediately. And I experience changes while I'm still in the ritual. So it is potent, very, 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 very potent. Whereas if I'm doing invocation, I'll notice it's not the same. It's not exactly the same. I've noticed evoking has a lot of power compared to invoking. I still haven't figured out why this is, personally, but I have seen the difference in power when you're evoking the spirit compared to invoking. So there is also obviously a level of psychic senses that come into play. You can call up the demon Baal, and you can ask it to build a kingdom for you, to help you with finances or whatever it may be. But in the end, you know, the spirit is there to work with you and guide you. The spirit is not going to do the footwork for you. You can't just call up a demon and ask it for $1 million. That's not how it's going to work for you. However, the spirit can teach you and show you how you can build that for yourself. And as you build the structure, as you build the platform, as you build the anchor for that manifestation to materialize, then the spirit can start working its magic to start using the constructs you've built as like a cell tower to then conduct that energy. So you're not going to manifest $1 million if you don't have any income, or if you don't have a company, or if you don't have a job. You're not going to manifest it. There has to be energetic and physical, emotional, mental gateways, currents from which these energies flow to us. And that's where we also have to understand how reality manifests. Reality manifests according to these dimensions that wash down into physicality. So we have the spiritual, we have the intellectual, we have the mind, astral, emotional, pranic, and then we have the physical. So we have to understand how each of these levels, the role they play. We have to understand how each of these levels play a role in our manifestations, even when working with spirits and even when materializing spirits. We have to understand the process of materializing them and communicating with them in the physical. So that's very advanced stuff. That's very, very advanced, if you ask me. Materializing spirits is not for beginners. But you can still communicate with them through scrying and trance work. And they will even send you messages, signs in the physical world and external world. They'll bring knowledge to you, and it's just really odd because they're just attracting it into your aura like a magnet, and it just appears somehow. So that's one of the great things working with spirits. Things just happen and you can't even explain it. It's like there's a curtain behind our reality, which they have 99% control over, and we have like 1%. And it's really interesting. But the greater thing is that when you're working with spirits, you can also find that at one point you don't even need to work with them as much anymore, because you also are a spirit. And the more you work with your own spirit, the more you work with yourself, the more you can also take on these tasks yourself. You can create yourself. You can create wealth for yourself. You could manifest things yourself directly with your own energy. And that can also be a very useful tool. I personally still work with spirits, but once you tap into your God spark, you don't really need to work with spirits like that anymore. Usually what will happen is once you tap into the divine light, once you tap into God consciousness, you'll already have a greater companionship with spirits. Because if you need something, the God consciousness, the God spark will instantly assign a spirit to what you need to do or what you need done. And I've had this with various things I've needed to take care of in my life, including instant manifestation. Like I had my luggage lost once, and it took 2 weeks for it to arrive. I was visiting my summer house in the States, And while my mother's luggage came on time, my luggage was still missing. So I was very fed up. I was very angry. I was upset because I had important things in my bag, and I'm just sitting there, and I was like, okay, I'm not gonna be a victim. So I tapped into God consciousness. I tapped into the divine spark. I tapped into the Bindu. I tapped into my divine light. I tapped into the divine light of the universe. And I was like, Christic light, divine light. I need a spirit that's going to help me claim my luggage. That's going to help me bring my luggage home. What happened was I saw this from the highest state of reality, which is Kether, which is the causal plane. And the causal plane, everything is almost like memories. It's almost like movies. It's like it goes scene by scene by scene, like a comic book. There isn't as much motion. It's very still. It's just information. And it's like a comic book. You just see the scenes of it. There isn't much movement. So I saw Hermes, the Greek god Hermes, appear through the divine light. The divine light assigned the Greek god Hermes for this task because he deals with travel, and obviously claiming my luggage was a big part of that. Hermes also deals with mail, transportation. And so what happened was I saw Hermes descend from Mount Olympus. Then I saw a vision of him at the airport grabbing the luggage. And then I saw another vision right after that coming to my door and leaving the luggage, giving it to me. And the next thing I know, he's sitting on my couch and I give him an offering. We chit chat a bit and he leaves. And I asked the Godhead, I asked the divine light, I asked Hermes. I was like, how long is this going to take? And he said, 24 hours. And the next day, in exactly 24 hours, at the exact same time, this old man comes to the front of my door. And he's holding my luggage. And bear in mind, this guy is wearing like a military outfit. He's not wearing your traditional airport staff clothes. Like, he looked like he was an officer. I was very surprised. He was very old though. And I got my luggage and I was like, wow, that was too freaky. And I've had instances like that with other things as well, smaller things, where I would just think about it through the divine light. I would evoke it and it would just manifest in my reality. And that's kind of where it's gone to now. When you have that connection with the Godhead, with the Holy Spirit, the Great Spirit, then all the spirits listen to the Holy Spirit. Then they follow the lead of the Holy Spirit. So developing that relationship with the divine light, with the Holy Spirit, is important. When you have that connection to the Holy Spirit, you have a greater companionship with spirits in general. Because you may not be able to assign a spirit to a task, but I guarantee you the Holy Spirit will. So if you have connection to that Holy Spirit, you have connection to the divine light, it's going to do wonders for you. You're going to make a lot of allies. The universe itself is going to bend to your will. That's the power it holds. And that power is within you. So learn to connect with it, and you'll learn to work with spirits even better. I'm going to do a whole different video on communicating with spirits because it is very complex, but also not so complex. It's just different from spirit work per se. Because you can tell a spirit to do something, you can give it a task, and it could do it. But if you're looking to learn magic from a spirit, you're looking to connect with a spirit, you're looking to journey the astral plane with a spirit, then you're going to need to tap into your own spirit and learn to work with them as a spirit rather than as a human being. And it's honestly something a lot of people struggle with. They call up these spirits and they think they can just tell them what to do and hold a sword to them and think they can just manipulate spirits. Do not do this. It will backfire on you 100%. Don't try to bind spirits like that. Unless they are waging war on you. If they're waging war on you, they're threatening you, whole different story. But my point here is you want to approach spirits more like people rather than like a video game. So as a starter, obviously, most of you are not going to be that advanced in spirit work. So all I suggest is call the spirit or spirits into your meditation. You can do this through strong, intense willpower, intention, sending out a signal, using your imagination. Because as you think of them, they're thinking about you. It's like a notification on your phone. It's like friend request. You know, it's kind of like that. So it's not hard contacting with them. What's harder is to get out of your own way and get out of your own doubt that the spirit's not there. You have to understand the spirit is there. And the more you meditate with it, the more you connect with it, the closer it's going to get to you. The more energy you send its way, the more energy you're going to be receiving. It's almost like the more you put out, the closer it comes to you. It's like you're kind of fishing it in. I don't want to say fish it in because you're not baiting the spirit or anything, but you know, you can leave it an offering, you can call to it, meditate with it, open up your consciousness, but it's very important to get into a receptive state. You know, I've traveled the realms quite a bit and I've seen these African tribes and stuff offer so much food and blood offerings and stuff to their deities. And the deities are just like, okay, you're offering this stuff, but you know, you need to get into a receptive state. You know, you have to receive what we have to give. If you're constantly giving, you're constantly making offerings. You're not working with the spirit that way. You're not allowing the spirit to work with you when you're constantly giving offerings. You actually have to just lay out what you're going to lay out, burn your candle, burn your incense, give your offering, you know. But you have to also get into a state where you allow the spirit's energy to flow through you and work with you. And most often, you'll come across this term, assuming God forms. And assuming a God form simply means you're taking on the astral form, the astral body of that spirit. You're temporarily merging your astral bodies. So you're shape-shifting to that spirit. You are becoming that spirit. And as you become it, you go out and fulfill the task as the spirit itself. And you'll see this in ancient Egypt too. In ancient Egypt, the gods are part of the temple. They're a part of your spirit. They're a part of your body. So in Egypt, what they would do is they would assume the god form based on the function of the deity. So if you're looking to increase your magic or your healing powers, you know, you assume the god form of Isis. If you're looking to connect with the all-seeing eye or the powers of Horus, you assume the god form of Horus. If you're looking to destroy or attack spiritual enemies, you would take on the god form of a deity like Anubis. So there's different functions to all these spirits. In fact, they're forces of nature. They're aspects of nature. So when you assume their forms, you're assuming you're taking on their qualities, you're taking on their spirit. And now your will is conducted through them. As you do the thing, as you do your will as the spirit, it's almost like you're transmitting a message, a little clip of what you want them to do. So that's also a very important thing to note. The more you expand your consciousness, the more you start working with the spirits on the more intimate level. And this can be a very good thing. So why is that a good thing? I'll tell you why. Because the more you work with these spirits on an intimate level, you learn their secrets, you learn the knowledge they have to offer you, and you build trust. The more trust you build, the more you gain their trust, the more you pass their tests, the more you allow them to expand your consciousness and become a part of your consciousness, you'll have more power. When you need their power, they will be there. So if you're in danger, if you're in need, if you're in like a time crunch, you'll see spirits pulling through in ways no human ever has. So those spiritual relationships with the spirits are by far way more important than the majority of human relationships you'll probably have. I can say this personally, a lot of my human relationships in general, like, have literally been spirits existing in those people's bodies, in their karma, in their contracts. And through that you connect with the spirit through that person. So that person might feel attraction towards you because you have a good relationship with that spirit that's inside of them. You see? So when you have a good connection with spirits, when you're overall very connected to the Holy Spirit, you have immense power, immense magnetism. That's where we get charisma. It's the same thing. Magnetism, charisma, chrism. It's all the same thing. So you want to make the most out of your connection with spirits, 1000%. So that's all I have to say about spirit work and working with spirits. They're definitely a very crucial part of our lives. So don't take them for granted. Don't just dismiss them. Listen to them, make time for them, and you will see life from a completely different point of view. So yeah, if you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe. Till next time.